that's what I was thinking. So I was running with that idea. But I said, I guess everybody was kind of different because I see more of the shuffle in Manhattan more than Brooklyn.
Okay.
You know, because in Brooklyn, I see rockers there that they had that whole sweetness of how they took it down, you know, and how they drop was, they had the style. But different from what I was seeing was the shuffle. They interpreted pretty well because it kind of fell into the music, but again, it was something that I wasn't really familiar with. So again, it's at that time, yeah, it was, everybody had a different style. And like, you know, how at the beginning, you know, rocking at the beginning was kind of basics to me at the time.
Yeah, raw.
It was just raw in that way, and the way the OGs do it. You know, changing the style to the evolution where it is now, it took a lot of work, and that was what I was visioning.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about that because
So
there was a lot of work that you guys put in that. So you go to this event, this rock battle, and you're invited by Full Circle, not a rock battle, but something in Bushwick.
Yeah.
That you see now. Wow, all these people are here. This is still popping just as much as the breaking is. What led you to now trying to seek out individuals to try to organize the rockers? Because I know that Ralph, King Uprock, Break Easy, and a couple of others, Mr. Loose, were in one sense doing that, but they were more so going to events, trying to call people out, doing it that way. And then you were coming along now trying to find certain people from the neighborhoods. And
right, so
what made you, what sparked that for you?
when I went into that spot in Bushwick and I met all these rockers, I was approached by Charlie Uprock, and he told me, hey, I like your style, man. You should come to my spot. I want to teach you and all that. And at that time, I didn't really take it serious because I didn't know who he was to begin with. And I was still hardcore into b-boying. I was really getting deep into this. And then from that time, we kind of moved on to when I went into a couple of events that I went to. Because remember, Planet 28 was a club that they were throwing a lot of house parties there at the time, and they were doing b-boy battles at the time there, and it was really exposed to that. And Brian Footwork Green was one of those promoters that was there at the time. And I remember going to one of those events to his spot, and that's when I saw King Uprock there the first time. And I saw him getting down. And I was like, wow, it's just like this vision that I keep seeing that I can't run away from this. It's just in my face. And I was like, man. So I had a lot of questions about it, you know, like, man. So I want to see what he's about, what he's doing. And I remember chatting with Break Easy, and Break Easy told me that, you know, Ralph Casanova is, you know, this guy named King Uprock, and that he rolls with this crew called Dynasty Rockers. And, you know, so he was just kind of giving me a little bit of history about that. And I was saying, wow, like, there's something that I really am inspired about that I want to do, but I just didn't know how to go into it, you know?
Yeah. So after being exposed and asking your questions and learning, what was your mission? Was your mission to just add more to the scene? Was your mission to reinvigorate, make a new crew, reinvigorated crew? What was your mission at that time?
Well, the idea was that, first of all, when I sat down with Break Easy and we were just talking about this, you know, I told him that I had some ideas of getting involved into this, but what I wanted to do was do some interview first, because that was the whole idea first, was let me get some interview, let me get some information that I need to kind of stir the things up, but I didn't know where to start. So I approached Choco, and I asked Choco that if I can do an interview with him, because he was one of the members of Mastermind Rockers at the time, and that he wanted to introduce me to a couple of the members that were still around that I can talk with. So I approached Choco. I met up with Choco, Rubber Band, Popeye, his brother, and I believe it was Dash was there. So we sat down over there in Brooklyn. I forgot what part it was, and I kind of filmed a little bit of what was going on, and I asked all these I asked him about 100 questions about rocking, about how did they get involved and all. Like, yeah, the typical, you know.
Similar to how we doing now.
Interview, right. And I got a lot of information. So the whole thing was that because I'm seeing this happening in the clubs and I'm seeing it happening more often at events, I was curious about what am I missing here, or what am I seeing that I'm not getting? Because remember, there was a line on the floor.
Yeah.
These two guys are battling. They're sequenced with the music. They're going up and down. So I had a lot of questions about why are they doing jerks? Why are they freestyling? Why are they throwing these gestures at each other? And who's winning? Because I wanted to know how you score this and how do you win, you know? And so these were all my questions at the time. And those interviews led me to reach out to Ringo. So now here's Ringo that I'm kind of like trying to search for, looking for.
Before you even get into that, so you're saying reach out. You know, today we got Facebook, we got Instagram. You could type in people's names and try to throw a pebble in the water and try to find them. But you're talking about an era where it was like, if you don't know where no one lives or you don't know where they're at, you don't know where they're at.
No.
So you gotta really break that down because that's a lot of hard work to find people. And maybe it was easier because Choco led you to the others, but how were you able to find certain people? Like Ringo, you said it in the Mastermind promo that you guys did for the anniversary, he was a hard person to find.
Right, so I got to go back to the beginning. So in the early 80s, or in the mid 80s, I was hanging out with this guy named JR. JR was the guy that me and him were like do or die partners at this time. I was introduced by him to Faino. Okay. Faino was a loafer at the time when I ran into him, and he was still rocking. So in the neighborhood, they would throw rock music and this guy used to get down, and I became really good friends with Faino really early in the beginning. And that's how I was exposed to Faino. And then after that, like I said, when they did the movie The Zules, you know, Choco had brought in Ringo and Spin at the time to come and be part of this filming that they did.
Okay.
And he introduced me to Spin and Ringo. So now here's another connection here. So now I got Ringo, Spin, I got Faino. And that also kind of, as the years went by, that's how I was kind of remembering Ringo at the time.
Through others.
Through others. And I was like, so when I had these interviews with Choco and all these Mastermind Rockers, you know, they mentioned Faino's name in there, and I was like, I know this guy.
Yeah, you're like, okay, Faino, I know Faino.
I know Faino. And then I was saying to myself, like, yo, I need more information. Like, I just got half of the pieces of what I need. I need to go find this guy, Ringo. Now, searching for him wasn't easy, because Ringo at the time, I only knew him as a little bit of through friends, you know. So I didn't know where to look for. So I remember going to Brooklyn, looking around, asking questions.
So you actually had to physically go out there, like with the milk carton.
Exactly.
And be like, have you seen this man?
I remember where he used to hang out. I remember locations, parks and stuff, and I only ran into him maybe one time, but I wasn't into the whole rocking or b-boying at the time. I ran into him like at a bank. He was cashing his check, and I ran into Ringo there with my mom, and I was kind of conversating with him there. That's the only time I saw him. But when I was actually needing him to kind of like give me more information, I had to search for him. And then I remember I was working for this company called Abercrombie and Fitch out on 57 and Fifth Avenue. And I ran into Ringo on a corner right there. He was working for TNT and moving his little cart, and I was like, Ringo! And we just kind of stopped at a corner and we were chatting, and I was like, yo, I need to talk to you about some things, and it has to do with rocking. And he was like, what, rocking? Who's doing rocking? that shit, you know, he
Yeah.
was giving me his story like, oh yeah, that,
Like everyone else.
yeah, I don't, what are you talking about? And I was like, listen, I need you to go home. I need you to get on YouTube, type in rocking, up rocking, anything that has to do with that, and just look at that. And you just see this, let me know what you think, and we'll talk. Here's my number, call me. And like maybe a week later, he gives me a call, like screaming, like, yo, what the fuck is going on? Yo, who's doing this? Who is that guy? And I was like, I don't know. I just want you to see. Tell me, can I have an interview with you? He was like, yo, for sure, man. I was like, listen, let's meet up in McCarran Park at this time. I'm gonna bring my camera. We're gonna sit. We're gonna talk. I wanna pick your brain on some things. And that's how Ringo came into the picture, you know. But remind you that I knew Ringo from like the 80s,
Yeah.
like mid 80s.
So you're basically the one that went to go get him and let him know, yo, this is still going on.
And he was shocked and surprised.
So now you got like this little like hodgepodge of characters. You got Fano, you got Rubber Band. Is this the reason why you ended up focusing on the Mastermind Rockers? Just because you were exposed to them already, you're around them already, you had history with them already, that you didn't start a completely new crew? Is that the reason?
So having these interviews with each member of Mastermind, because there was much more. Like I was digging deep into finding every member I could from this crew. And I remember Ringo was still not into dancing yet. Ringo was into the interview, and that was it. He told me that he might be connected to spin somehow, so I was able to reach out to find spin as well. Then spin led me to Dash. Another crazy story there.
I think you told me that one.
So,
Because you guys thought Dash was deceased.
yeah, everybody was saying it. I was like, yo, so all these stories, but then I really had a good conversation with Ringo, and that's where we were kind of like talking about this, about rocking, and I was like, listen, this is happening in the events, this is happening at clubs, this is happening around the dance community. Can you come out with me one day to check this out? And he did. Tired as he was, he would just come out of work, tired, and I used to drag him with me to these clubs. And he would be like blown away, like, what? And I remember him taking him to Boogie Nation. I went to Boogie Nation, that Break Easy was the DJ, and we was invited. And I told Ringo about it, and I took Ringo with me. And I knew Tiny. Tiny was already rocking. So I told Ringo, listen, this is Tiny, this is Ringo. Ringo, this, Tiny rocks, and it would be nice if you guys can share a moment in a cipher. So, so you could rekindle a little bit of your old style and all that. And Ringo was like, yeah, let's go. So him and Tiny got into this whole rock battle for a little while. Didn't last it long, but because at that time Ringo wasn't really fit for it, Ringo was like, I don't know, he was really heavy. But he got down, and him and Tiny went at it for a good minute, I would say.
Yeah.
That's how long it was.
So you're like bringing all these, like, it's almost like you're like a coach, bringing all these players, like trying to motivate all these players, like, we gotta come back. Like, how was it for you though? How was it for you now? You're finding all these people, you were seeing the rock, now you're more invested in it, and now you're starting to go on this little circuit around the clubs, the events, the practices, and you're kind of connecting all the dots. Like, what was that time for you?
Well, for me, it was still more gathering information, because at the beginning, like I said, I wasn't really 100% fully invested in this.
Okay.
But I needed to know more about it. So in order for me to know more about it, I had to talk with Ringo and pick his brain on some things and all that. And I was still talking with Break Easy, because me and Break Easy had some other projects that we were doing together. Then I met with King Uprock, and so it was a lot of people that I was already talking with. But at that time, I still wasn't thinking, not even to build a crew yet or anything like that. I was just asking the questions because I needed to know more about foundation, the freestyle, the jerks, the burns. There were so many other things that I still didn't know about the Apache line and why is this, why is that. So everything was all why.
Yeah.
But I was also taking notes of everything that was going on. And I needed to know as much as information that I can so I can kind of brainstorm to what I want to do. So like I said at the beginning, everything was all about interviews.
When did it get to the stage where now you guys said,
So
let's do something with this?
So basically, I was able to get at least half of the Mastermind Rockers together,
The originals.
the originals. And I remember we went to a practice in Manhattan, Lower East Side, and I just wanted to film them rocking. You know, I was bringing them out of the
crypt.
out of the wheelchairs, all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And so we decided to meet up in Manhattan. We went to this place and this gym, and they started to get down. And I was recording all this, and they were feeling the buzz of it. And so was Ringo, like, yo, what? This is crazy, man. And so, you know, it was kind of cool to see a lot of reuniting these guys together at the time and bringing them out to see a little bit more about it. And that's what was happening. We were just all getting all together. But nothing at the time was really concrete that we were going to say, hey, we could resurface his name of Mastermind. So it wasn't happening yet. So I remember a time when I sat down with Ringo and we were talking about it, and he was saying, yo, if we ever decide to do something or create a crew, you know, let's just stick to Mastermind Rockers because you are invested in this crew. You got all these guys that thought that they weren't around anymore, you know, and we were having these gatherings like with them a lot. So it kind of started with that little idea, like, let's use MMR, okay. I remember having a conversation with Break Easy where I told him that I want to start putting something together. This was at his kitchen, you know. We had a lot of kitchen moments with Break Easy.
Kitchen talk.
Kitchen talking while he cooks his noodles and all that, you know. And we sat down and I was saying like, hey, what do you think? And this is true, like I told him, like, what do you think if I could come up with Mastermind Rockers, be under the umbrella with Dynasty Rockers? I asked him that. And he told me, no, I think that if you're gonna start something, we should keep them separated. So you can do your thing without having to be under the umbrella of Dynasty Rockers. But I was doing it out of respect because we were all cool, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's where it led me to keep them separated.
Nice.
So I was like, all right, cool. I told him I have ideas. I wanna put a crew together of rockers, you know. And he was like, well, go ahead, do it. I encourage you, you know. He was the one that gave me that push.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it.
So you had, like, you know, like I said earlier, like the hodgepodge of you know, older guys, but of course not all of them had the same spirit to, you know, do how you has you and Ringo and even Spin did, which is put in work for like a couple years. Some just came around when they can and just show support and give you their blessings. When did you get the thought to now incorporate newer people like James and Lenny and stuff like that? When did you get the thought to now, you have these older guys already, you're doing these practices, you're trying to invigorate the name, but we need some new energy in here now?
So I remember in order for me to get the name Mastermind Rockers, I had to
battle.
No, at the beginning I had to talk to the OGs first because I didn't know.
EG and
It was Fano, Rubber Band, Dash. It was a couple of more.
Yeah.
Where we gathered together and I had to ask for the name. At this time, it was not easy because I didn't know how they felt giving a name up like that to someone else, you know, and I was kind of nervous about it. And when I talked to them about it, about using the name, and they were like, yo, we're giving you the blessings. You can take the name, you can do your thing. The only thing that they asked was, don't forget us. And I was like, no problem.
Yeah.
Like, long as you give me full access to manage this thing, this crew, the name, I'm good. You know, I can do it. And so that's when I was blessed with the name. Now I'm over here. I told Ringo, so this is how we're gonna rebuild this here. So I already had different ideas. Because I told Ringo, I love the style of rocking, but because it's so outdated, you know, at the time, how do we improve it?
How do you evolve it? Yeah.
Involve it, because this dance is pretty old, and as a b-boy, I used to see a few people do a little bit of a jerk and a burn, and I was just kind of like, kind of not impressed with it. So I was saying to myself, like, what would impress me if somebody did something in rocking that would be like, holy shit, you know? So that was my whole idea. If we can get wows from b-boys when they do a move and people be like, oh shit, I was trying to get that same feeling for rocking, and that was the idea. So I told Ringo, like, listen, Ringo, if we want to move forward with this and we want to start this crew because it's only just me and you, this is what we're going to do. So we're going to go to clubs around the city, wherever we can go, and we're going to rock. Me and you are going to rock against each other in ciphers so it could be exposed. And we're going to continue doing this until people could recognize us.
And then say, like, I want to get involved.
Right. We were waiting to hear from people saying, yo.
So you went out there and wanted to present it, and then kind of whoever's interested now come into the fold.
Exactly. So that's what happened. That's how we started. We were just going out there every night, hitting it, anything that was happening.
And talk about those early days, man. Like, you know, you and Ringo, it's like y'all going on a mission to go to every clubs. You know, every club is different. Sometimes you might be embraced. Sometimes the DJ cuts the music. And you know, Ringo's a little older. You're having to, you know,
Ringo
chaperone him around. Like, talk about those early days.
Ringo was working for this company doing deliveries for TNT at the time. And Ringo was living in Staten Island, and I was dragging him out to party with me. Meanwhile, my work is a little different from him, but he used to get up super early. But Ringo really, really dedicated himself to this. And he knew the consequences of him being out late at these hours, you know, and coming home twisted, tired and all that. But it kind of gave him an incentive because he was already like hungry to kind of move forward with it. So he would go. And Ringo was really heavy set guy at the time, you know, and I don't know what happened that it really sparked on him, and he was like, I want to do this hardcore. And I was like, well, I kind of talked to him and I told him like, hey, so this is what my idea is. I said, I want to be able to go into battles to try to win, not to lose. And I'm a big fan of the traditional old school rocking, but we need to advance it because it needs an upgrade, I told him.
Yeah.
And the only way we're gonna do it is by maybe changing a few things here and there, but keeping the foundation the same.
Yeah.
So Ringo says, I got some ideas, because remember, Ringo was doing phasic style at the time.
And break that down for people that don't know what that is, because you just reminded me of phasic style.
So
a lot of sliding,
there was a lot of sliding, a lot of theatrical movements, a lot of, you know, hand movements that it was kind of different from what I saw in the past, you know? And his style was really, really unique. And when I asked him where did he learn this, he said, I learned this from East New York, from this guy named Parrot. I'm not sure. And it was phasic. It was totally something different that I really liked. And I was saying to him, like, you know, this is the good thing about it is that everybody's so different, you know, in rocking that, you know, is very unique. And I was telling him, like, we need to advance the dance. And he was like, listen, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna brainstorm this, and I'll get back to you when I can, because of my work and all that. And I was like, all right, cool. So we took some time off. So I didn't see Ringo for over 3 months. This guy was weighing like, I don't know, $160 or $180, somewhere around there.
Probably a 90. From
Yeah,
those
he was in the high he was in the high numbers. And when this guy came back, he came back like this, dude. I thought he was on crack.
Yeah.
He came back really skinny.
Maybe you see that oatmeal, that does oatmeal.
You gotta eat your oatmeal, like they say. So he came back like that, really skinny, and I was freaking out. I thought that he got sick. I thought that something happened. He lost weight like really fast. And he was like, no, man, I was in the gym. I was practicing. And then he had this notebook, and he was like flipping through pages like, yo, oh, I got these moves now that, oh, we got to practice this. And I was like, all right. This is too much for me right now. I said, we need to go out, and we need to hit a couple of spots up, and I need to see this in action, because I'm not going to move forward to do a crew without me seeing you actually burn somebody or actually get down with somebody, you know. And he said, all right, cool, so let's go to a couple of events. And we started to go to a couple of events, and then I remember I think we saw Phantom at one of the spots.
Was this the Delancey battle at the Delancey?
It was at Delancey, I think, but not not at that time.
Okay.
There was another time. It was a jam out in Manhattan, and that we went to, and I believe Phantom was there, and we saw Phantom, you know, doing a couple of movements and you know, jerks or stuff that we were looking at, and Ringo was like, wow, I didn't know that Phantom could rock, and I was like, I didn't know either. And it was interesting to know that. And I remember talking to Ringo and being like, yo, we're gonna be going to a couple of spots. At that time, Behind the Groove was already gonna do the first Behind the Groove. And we're gonna go to it, and you know, Quickstep is a big fan of rocking and all that, so let's just go. And I remember taking him to Behind the Groove. And Ringo was already fully a rocker again. And Phantom showed up at that event as well, at Behind the Groove. And right there, I told Ringo, like, this is your best opportunity is now, because, you know, he rocks. I believe you can do this, and maybe you guys could exchange and exchange some moves here that it'll be nice to see. But without, you know, without thinking, you know. So him and Phantom had a moment when they rocked against each other there. And Ringo was doing some stuff that I was like, oh shit, like, it was really catchy. And that's what led me to be like, okay,
it's a green light now.
It's green light. I can see this already. Like, we have something here. His style is very unique, very different. I saw, you know, burns that were totally different from like the OGs and all that, and so that's when I was like, all right, you proved it to me.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go practice.
Nice. So in those days right there, like practicing, and you, like you said, you want to evolve, you want to bring the next evolution, the new style. Mastermind Rockers, that, you know, early crop, you, Tiny, Ringo really worked hard to develop a new style, to bring something new, whether it was the double, triple burning, quadruple burning, whether it was different freestyle moves, certain routine aspects, certain formations. Talk about the work that went into that, and then how did because there was a lot of controversy about that style that you guys were bringing. People were like, they're burning too much, and they're doing this. So talk about the creation of those style and method, and then like how you guys were received, because it looked like you guys got a lot of flack and criticism for that.
Yeah, so basically, when me and Ringo were hitting the studios by ourselves first, I was able to get a room out in Glipley Studios, and it was just me and Ringo at this time there. The OGs used to come once in a while to meet up with us there, and we would practice. And at the same time, we were going over things. We were taking notes like, hey, so how can we do this? How can we do that? Like, you think if we burn this way or we burn that way, it will work. So we were trying out scenarios. Like, all right, you do a jerk, and then we would try to burn on 4. We would try to burn on the 2. We were trying to burn on the 3. We were figuring things out as we went along, but trying to keep the foundation the same, because we did not want to change that. We want to stay within the sequence with the music.